about a week ago, I covered what I thought was going to be a small protest in Madison, Wisconsin, in response to a police shooting of a black criminal who owed over $50,000 in child support, has beat multiple women, is not a good guy, was resisting arrest, and then stabbed a police officer with a giant chef knife, and then he got himself shot. And of course, the entire leftist infrastructure in Madison, Wisconsin, has responded with a Black Lives Matter protest. And I thought it was going to be a relatively small protest when I decided to cover it live. And then I showed up and there were 2,000 people there on a Wednesday afternoon in Madison, Wisconsin. And I said, okay, this might be a little bit of a bigger problem than I originally thought. And almost immediately in Madison, they started building a little autonomous zone in the middle of the city in which they were erecting a shrine to this guy that got shot by the police. And they've now taken over several city blocks. And the most mind-boggling thing to me is literally no one else is talking about this. We are seeing the start of what could be potentially BLM Part 2, and no one seems to care. The DSA internal stats, I believe they said they got like 70% of the Trump voters that they actually went and talked to end up voting for Zoran Mandami. Not only they got people to like switch over to like vote in the primary, but then they got people to vote for him in the general election as well, because they were speaking explicitly about the issue of affordability. This seems to be something that the Trump administration has completely abandoned, and they think that if they just call someone a communist, that's going to be enough to get people to turn against them. But the fact of the matter is normal people are struggling and they are waiting for someone to make life more affordable for them. And the DSA is speaking directly to this every single day, and the Trump administration and MAGA are not. So is it any wonder people are voting for them? I mean, they're trying to solve their problems.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is War Room Live. I'm your host, Harrison Smith. We are coming to you live on the Alex Jones Network, alexjoneslive.com. You can also find us on X at AJN Live. I'm at Harrison H. Smith. You can also go to Real Alex Jones. And of course, the AlexJonesStore.com is where you go to support us. I'm very, very excited to have my guest, Karlyn Borysenko. I did it, Karlyn. I got your name right. I don't know. I develop a learning disability with Karlyn Borysenko's name. I always want to read it, Karlyn, but I got it right that time, and I should have just moved on coolly. Karlyn Borysenko is an analyst and independent journalist covering the far left in America. Over the last 5 years, she's going undercover with Antifa all over the country, infiltrating hundreds of online leftist meetings, and has secretly recorded thousands of hours of their discussions to expose their language and how they're organizing. You can follow her on X at Dr. Karlyn B. Dr. Karlyn, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Harrison. How are you?
I'm doing very well. But, normally when I have a guest on, before they come on, I get the different articles that they're coming on to talk about together. Here's the problem. Nobody's reporting on what you report on. I go through Drudge, nothing there. There's nothing on Post Millennial. There's nothing on Gateway Pundit. There's nothing anywhere about what you're covering, which is what's going on in Madison, as well as the behind the scenes organization being done by the left. You are a unique voice out there, which is why I think it's important to highlight your work. Tell us, what are you covering these days?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely mind-blowing to me that no one else is covering this. About a week ago, I covered what I thought was going to be a small protest in Madison, Wisconsin, in response to a police shooting of a black criminal who owed over $50,000 in child support, has beat multiple women, is not a good guy, was resisting arrest, and then stabbed a police officer with a giant chef knife, and then he got himself shot. And of course, the entire leftist infrastructure in Madison, Wisconsin, has responded with a Black Lives Matter protest. And I thought it was going to be a relatively small protest when I decided to cover it live. And then I showed up and there were 2,000 people there on a Wednesday afternoon in Madison, Wisconsin. And I said, okay, this might be a little bit of a bigger problem than I originally thought. And almost immediately in Madison, they started building a little autonomous zone in the middle of the city in which they were erecting a shrine to this guy that got shot by the police. And they've now taken over several city blocks. And the most mind-boggling thing to me is literally no one else is talking about this. We are seeing the start of what could be potentially BLM Part 2, and no one seems to care.
It is so bizarre. And even just the way you laid it out there, it's like, this is like a ceremony we do now. If the cops kill a black man, you have to clear out a section of your city and build a shrine and do a religious ordination or something. It's so bizarre because if you read the case, I mean, this wasn't even, I mean, George Floyd, I think we all agree, like, we don't have the actual facts on the record about that. I don't believe he was killed by the police. You can debate about it. The video looks bad, whatever. In this case, the dude stabbed a cop. It's like, and you expect them to, what, politely ask he stop? It's so crazy that this is the type of, police killing that gets mass support. What is it about this case that is drawing so much attention? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's not about this case in particular. It's not even about this person in particular. This is what the left does. Every time they have an opportunity to make the case to abolish the police or defund the police, they are going to do it. And if they have to lift up a criminal martyr in order to do it, then they have no problem doing that. Because what you have to understand about the far left is abolishing and defunding the police is one of their central organizing tenets. It is the thing that they will never give up on because they believe that the police are the protectors of capitalist society and they can't overthrow capitalism without getting rid of the police. So this just happened to be an opportune moment for them to take advantage of, and they absolutely have.
And obviously, maybe one of the reasons it's not getting as much attention is because the right wing is like looking for ICE protests. Like it almost seems weird that they're protesting for Black Lives Matter. It's like, I thought we moved on to ICE at this point. But obviously it's the same people driven by a lot of the same motives. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of overlap between the ICE protests that we've been seeing over the last couple of years and the protests happening here. How do these two groups play with each other?
Yeah, that's a great question. To the far left, these two things are actually one and the same. And so, of course, they've been doing anti-ICE organizing for about a year and a half now. This has been going on all across the country. But what people need to understand about the language of the left is the left hates the police for exactly the same reason they hate ICE. ICE are the protectors of capitalism because they are protectors of the border. The border represents capitalism to the left. They hate the police because the police are the managers of private property. That's their definition of capitalism. And so for the left, of course, they're going to take advantage of an opportunity to kind of get one of their biggest enemies in, which again, the police, ICE to them are one and the same. So yeah, this is exactly the same protest. It's just being framed a little bit differently.
And it's obviously not getting attention from the right as we've been complaining about, and you've been doing a great job, on your own. And literally, I think you're the only person I've heard talk about this. Literally, I think you're the only one. But that includes people on the left too. Am I just missing things, or are the left kind of treating this in a little bit more of a low key way as well?
Oh, no, the left is totally on top of this. In fact, I mean, one of the things that's so funny about this is people might remember that giant BLM fist statue that was in Minnesota in George Floyd Square in 2020. They actually shipped that giant statue to Madison, Wisconsin, and it is currently erected in the autonomous zone in Madison, Wisconsin. We're going to be able to see it in this video. I think there's been video of it. I'm not sure if you guys have the right one. But yeah, that fist is in Madison right now, and they're actually there's Antifa coming from all over the region. There it is right there. Antifa is coming all over the region into the city, including the artist that created that fist statue in the first place. So if you go on to Instagram is really one of the main organizing platforms of the far left, which seems a little bit weird. You'd think it would be blue sky, but it's not. You can go down many leftist rabbit holes and find all their different far left groups posting about this. It's something that they are very excited about.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I am just missing. That's where you come in. You actually go into these spaces and report on what you find. I guess I'm lucky. I avoid the leftist content for the most part, but it's leaving us blind to what's actually going on. Again, there's just something that feels weird about this. That before I was looking at your coverage, nobody saw this. And then you look at it, it's like it's an autonomous zone. There's tons of people showing up. They have statues. This is a big deal, and yet it's going totally unaddressed. What does this portend, do you think? Like, is this going to keep going? Do you think this is the beginning, the snowball rolling down the hill? Are we going to see another, summer of love for the second half of this season? Or, like, what is their plan? What are they trying to achieve with this?
So I don't know if this is going to snowball into a national summer of love as we saw it last time. And I think that might just be a timing issue. I mean, people are getting ready to go back to college in a couple weeks. And so that might be just a timing snafu on their part. But the thing that is in Madison specifically, what people need to understand is the city is completely supporting this. So that autonomous zone is not going away anytime soon. The city is coordinating with leaders of the autonomous zone to make sure they have services that they need. The city is moving in barricades and salt salt trucks and all of these things to block off the streets for them. They even brought them porta potties. They're even importing, like, there's like an additional porta potty added every single day at city taxpayer expense to make sure they're nice and comfortable. And the left is setting up tents. They're setting up an encampment there. They're sleeping over. And the city has flat out said that they don't really have any plans to get rid of it anytime soon. And I think on top of that, we have the Wisconsin governor's race that's happening with a DSA candidate, Francesca Hong, who looks like she might actually get the Democratic nomination for governor. And if she does, I think that autonomous zone is there to stay for the foreseeable future. I don't think it's going anywhere.
This is the bizarre thing about it. It's a bunch of fight the power people, and all the powerful people going, here's money, here's services. Yep. It's so nonsensical. Let's zoom out a little bit, because I want to talk about that, because, you know, for the first time maybe in my life, we have American politicians in just the last few months invoking the specter of communism, literal communism. I mean, this is something that, like, fell out of style, I guess, in the early 90s with the fall of the Soviet Union. It seems like a weird throwback to have Donald Trump be like, communists, these communists are here. So on one side, I'm glad they're aware that, yes, this is literal communism. It is a danger. We should be defending against this. At the same time, just saying that guy's a communist is not enough, right? What is your take on the rise of DSA, the infiltration of communism, the reaction from the Republicans? That's a lot of topics, but, you know, the floor is yours. What is your take on this rise of communism and the reaction?
Yeah, so first, I want to make sure people understand that calling someone a communist is no longer a demonizing term. In fact, the left is really embracing this and saying, yes, we're communists, we're socialists. And by the way, they use that term interchangeably. It means basically the same thing to them. And so they're very proud of this, and they're very proud of all the coverage that we're getting. You know, there was a big, kerfuffle about the DSA, coming out and saying they want to abolish the Senate. I mean, breaking news, Harrison, I've been covering that for 3 years. That is not a new thing from the DSA, but the right has just discovered that they do actually have plans to overthrow the government. And one of the things I want to make sure people understand about this is in Madison, Wisconsin specifically, even though they do have this DSA governor's candidate, the DSA is not leading the encampment and the protest in Madison. In fact, they're flat out saying, we are here to support, we are here to encourage, but we are not actually leading this effort. So the DSA is not the most far left organization that we are dealing with. However, when it comes to elections, certainly they are starting to become a formidable force. The DSA in New York City, I think, is going to be pretty unstoppable. They have spent the last 10 years building an electoral machine to get Zohran Mamdani into the mayor's office in New York City. They made millions of phone calls. They had over 50,000 active volunteers. They knocked on millions of doors. They went into neighborhoods that were previously underserved. They did literally the ground game that, quite frankly, the Republicans could do, but refused to for reasons beyond my understanding. And they're doing everything right. And after they had so much success electorally in New York, they started teaching DSA chapters all over the country how to do exactly the same thing. And the DSA National has actually been raising money for local candidates. They've been doing phone banking. They raise money via dues. The DSA National just handed out grants in 20 cities all over the country to open local DSA offices. And these are not just in blue states. These are in red states too. There's one in Tampa, Florida. There's one in Birmingham, Alabama. I think there's one in Boise, Idaho. So they are not just focusing on blue areas at all. And so the DSA electorally is very excited and very energized. And quite frankly, that Fox News interview that conservatives were like, oh, we got them to admit what they're going to do, even though they've been saying it publicly for years, quite frankly. The DSA is psyched about that. If you go on their social media, they're like, yeah, we went on Fox News and we told them exactly what we wanted to do. And they just think it's great.
Yeah, and this is why the response from Trump in particular is so baffling. And one thing he said, sort of when the Democrat socialists sort of swept a bunch of elections in New York earlier this month, last month, whenever it was recently, and Trump basically said, this is a good thing for us because the socialists are so crazy, normal people won't vote for them, and they'll come over to the Republicans. And I think this is so disconnected with reality. It's so out there. What's your take on that first? Because the interesting twist to this is that a lot of the socialists are portraying themselves as more normal, right? You think of Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, ran as a total moderate, governs like Mao. So what is their strategy? Are they coming out and saying, hey, we're radical socialists, you vote for us? Are they hiding their power level and trying to just appear as moderates? But first, what is your response to Donald Trump thinking that socialists are so crazy, this will be a boon for Republicans?
Donald Trump has no idea what's going on, and I am fully convinced no one in the Trump administration is actually hinged into reality, because everything I hear coming out of the Trump administration about the far left, the DSA and Antifa, it's all completely wrong. They don't know where they're funded. They don't know how they're organizing. They don't know how they're showing up in the world. And quite frankly, if the Trump administration doesn't start hinging into reality, I just don't even know what to say. In fact, in response to Donald Trump saying these people are so crazy, I mean, the fact of the matter is, when Zohran Mamdani was campaigning for the mayoral nomination, they went into MAGA voting areas in New York City, and they specifically targeted people that had voted for Donald Trump in 2024. And they went in and they said, hey, listen, we know we're socialists and you guys might not agree with us, but we think affordability in New York City is a big problem. And here are the ideas we have to make things more affordable in New York City. And guess what? The Republicans weren't even talking to these people in New York City because they completely gave up on it. And so they actually, the DSA internal stats, I believe they said they got like 70% of the Trump voters that they actually went and talked to end up voting for Zohran Mamdani. Not only they got people to like switch over to like vote in the primary, but then they got people to vote for him in the general election as well, because they were speaking explicitly about the issue of affordability. This seems to be something that the Trump administration has completely abandoned, and they think that if they just call someone a communist, that's going to be enough to get people to turn against them. But the fact of the matter is normal people are struggling, and they are waiting for someone to make life more affordable for them. And the DSA is speaking directly to this every single day, and the Trump administration and MAGA are not. So is it any wonder people are voting for them? I mean, they're trying to solve their problems.
100%. And this is why I appreciate your coverage, because, our regular viewers know you and I are exactly aligned on this, that, there are these real problems that the Republicans are completely uninterested in addressing in any way at all. They really just insult the people making these complaints, even though the complaints are perfectly valid and it's reasonable people who have been, living in their car. We've all seen the videos. Meanwhile, the socialists are there going, you just come with us. We're going to take those guys' stuff and give it to you. It'll be great. Who do you think they're going to go with? So, we're completely aligned on that. I'm just baffled that more people don't get this. Like, is this that hard to understand, Karlyn? Are we super geniuses that everybody else is like how complicated is this? You've got to do something to deal with the very real concerns of the American people, especially the young people who have seen their prospects disintegrate over the last 10 years. How do we make that clear to the Republicans? Is it too late? We'll spend some time here, but in the next segment, I really want to get into strategy, how we stop this. But just on that note alone, how do we make this case?
Harrison, I don't know at this point. I feel like I have been screaming into the void for years and years and years, trying to warn people that all this was coming. And from MAGA people, and listen, I get thousands of comments from MAGA people on my social media, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like every single day. They do not take this problem seriously at all. They laugh it off. They make jokes about it. They say, these are paid protesters. They don't have jobs. This is all Soros funded. None of those things are true, by the way. And I think what I see coming out of the Trump administration and the GOP is just more lies about how the left is organizing, just making fun of them. And they think that making fun of them is somehow going to defeat this. And while they are making fun of them and making memes on Twitter, the left just keeps organizing. They just keep their head down. They keep focused on the goal. And if they have an opportunity to do something like they're doing in Madison, Wisconsin, they jump on it and they take it immediately. I mean, they have been able to spin up protests of thousands of people within a day or two. I mean, that is an impressive level of organizing. And when I talk about these things, I get MAGA people on my channel saying, oh, this is a really small protest. Okay, have you ever been to a local Republican meeting? Because there might be a couple dozen people there if you're lucky on a good day. So you're calling several thousand people showing up on a Thursday a small protest that doesn't matter, but you guys can't even get a couple dozen people involved. So let's, maybe back up and hinge into reality here.
And take it seriously. Take this threat seriously. You and I seem to be the only ones who are like, no, they're going to do a revolution, guys, and they might win. I went through a bunch of history of communist revolutions. People write it off. They laugh it off. Like you're saying, they just, scoff it. These people don't have jobs or whatever. Historically, there have been couple dozen attempted communist revolutions. About a third of them succeed. And it's usually the ones that succeed are like the Russian Revolution. It's like the big ones. You'll have a little one in Nicaragua where somebody tries to do something and maybe it fizzles out. But when you get a big nationwide push of communists trying to overthrow the government, it's got about a 33% chance of success. And then it becomes a hell of a lot harder from there on out. They just don't know history. We have to understand reality. There's a bull running at us. You can't just scoff at it. You got to take it by the horns. I really don't know how we get this message across, but as you point out, the left just seems to keep their head down, do what they need to do. They're organizing behind the scenes. Meanwhile, we've got Marco Rubio going to Europe and making a big speech about Antifa, but nothing's being done for it. There's no work behind the scenes. There's no just, it doesn't have to be spectacular. You just got to plug away and, hey, declare them domestic terrorists. Let's investigate their money supplies. Where are they getting orders from? This seems criminal. Let's go with that. What do we need to do to convince the Republicans, stop talking about it, do it? Or even our fellow right-wingers, you can't laugh at this. You got to be organizing in competition with them. What do we do to fight back here?
Yeah, I think the first thing people really need to understand, and I really hope that someone connected with the Trump administration is watching right now or will see this, every single thing the Trump administration is putting out about how Antifa is funded is completely wrong. That report from Marco Rubio saying they're funded by Cuba and Iran, they're also saying they're funded by China, that is complete and total garbage. I'm sorry, that's just reality. Antifa is funded by mutual aid. They are funded by small cash donations within the community. They are not funded by nonprofits. They are not funded by NGOs. That is directly contradictory to all of their organizing principles. You can read Dean Spade's book about mutual aid. Dean Spade has probably raised more money for Antifa and the far left than anyone in the country over the past 25 years that them has been an activist. They're a professor at the Seattle School of Law, by the way. This is not an insignificant person. They've literally written the book about how to do this, train Antifa all over the country about how to do it. The right has never heard of this person and is not paying attention to them at all. And that is where the money is coming from, mutual aid. It is not coming from Soros. It is not coming from Neville Roy Singham and the CCP. It is coming from the community. And that makes it incredibly difficult to cut off the funding source. And that is why, quite frankly, Harrison, the Trump administration has not cut off the funding. They've been saying for over a year and a half now, we're going to cut off the head of the snake. Well, they haven't done anything. And the reason they haven't done it is because they do not know where the funding is coming from, because they cannot wrap their head around the idea of mutual aid. And so that's got to be step number one. We really have to just start to ground ourselves in the reality of how the far left is actually organizing in the real world. And every single thing coming out of the White House is just wrong. And quite frankly, it is infuriating to me that I am a woman in my second bedroom in a townhouse in New Hampshire, and I seem to know more about this than the FBI does. And so until, again, the Republicans start taking this seriously and they stop lying to their audiences about what is going on, we have no hope of turning this thing around.
100%. Could not agree with you more. So what do you do about that? Because, mutual aid, and I agree with you. I mean, that seems to be where most of funding is coming from. How do you deal with that? How would you deal with that? If you were, Comrade Borysenko, the dictator of America, I mean, how is that what it would take? How do you deal with this? If it's just people funding each other, I mean, this is really a quandary.
This might be controversial, but in my ideal world where I'm the dictator of America, I would round up all of the organizers, all across the country. We're talking about thousands of people here, and I would concentrate them in a camp-like area, build a wall around them, prohibit them from publishing, prohibit them from organizing, and prohibit them from interacting with polite society. It may be extreme to say I'd put them all in the concentration camp, but I think that type of thing is actually what is going to be required in order to stop this problem. You have to get them off the streets. Trump has got to arrest far more people than the 15 that he arrested in Minnesota, which, 15 is a good start, fine, but there are 80,000 far-left activists in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Trump arrested 15 of them. And by the way, those 15 people have already raised about $400,000 via a crowdfunding site for their legal defense. And that was all mutual aid. It was all small donations, about an average donation of $100 a pop to fund the legal defense of the 15 Antifa members that were arrested in Minneapolis. So again, they need to be arrested. They need to be prevented from organizing. They need to be taken off the streets entirely. I think that if Trump doesn't invoke the Insurrection Act at some point, there's just no point to any of this.
You got my vote. I mean, I don't disagree with you even a little bit. And, the thing is, this is the other thing I found when I was researching the history of communist revolutions. First of all, they succeed a lot more than you'd think. But the other thing I found is they almost never get defeated with anything except for violence. That's just how it is. Out of the dozens of attempts and the dozens of successes that they've had overthrowing a government or imposing their rule on an area, it's like 4 or 5 of them maybe got ended with negotiation. The vast majority, and everybody knows this, right? 1918 in Germany had to be crushed by the Free Corps. In Spain, the Communist Revolution had to be crushed by Franco. If you don't crush it, they win. Like, that seems to be the historical standard when it comes to communist revolutions. We have to understand this. And while we may be sort of hamstrung right now because we have freedom of speech, we have, protections that I think are good, it's like if we're hamstrung by these, if these constitutional protections are the reason we can't stop the communists, we really got to make a difficult choice. Do we adhere to the Constitution and become a communist dictatorship, or do we got to do some extreme measures here, but in the pursuit of actually having a constitution at the end of this? More on the other side. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is War Room Live. I'm your host, Harrison Smith. Folks, if you're not watching the Alex Jones Network, you might not have any idea that there is an autonomous zone Black Lives Matter protest happening in Madison, Wisconsin. I myself would have no idea about this, except for my guest, Karlyn Borysenko, who, lucky for us, spends her times exploring the fetid swamps of leftist internet culture to find out what they're actually up to and what they're actually doing. Cannot encourage you enough to go follow Karlyn, Dr. Karlyn B. That's DrKarlynB on X, decodetheleft.com. And of course, you can find all of her other, great work there. Again, just incredible coverage, and you go there on the ground, you do undercover work. It's really spectacular stuff, and I can't encourage it enough, like I said. But we're facing a big problem here, and I sort of laid it out at the end of the last segment, but I don't have an answer to this. I don't know if you do either. Let me lay out first. I love the Constitution. I genuinely treat the Constitution like a sacred document. I got to hang it up next to my bed. I think it is the greatest document man has ever produced. It came out of one of the greatest generation of men to ever produce, a capstone of our civilization. Now, that being said, when I hear Anthony Fauci invoke the Fifth Amendment so he doesn't have to talk about lying the American people into lockdowns that destroyed people's lives, I have to question its usefulness at this point. When the Constitution is used only to hamstring the right, an attempt to impose order and get back to justice, and the left seems capable of doing whatever they want, whenever they want, here's how I put it, Karlyn. People who love the Constitution are going to have to break the Constitution so we can save the Constitution from people who hate the Constitution. Does that make sense? Is that a good argument? Because we're in trouble here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In an ideal world with rainbows and unicorns where everyone gets a pony, I think the Constitution is great, right? And in my heart of hearts, I'm a free speech absolutist. I want everyone to be able to say whatever they want. But the thing of it is that does not work in practicality. And it does not work when we have a very active and significant far left uprising going on in the country all over the place in almost every single state, in almost every single major city, in every single state, including red areas. And what people need to understand, and this is why I harp so much on the language of the left. When the left says capitalism, as in overthrowing capitalism, they don't just mean seizing the means of production in the factories. The left believes that the Constitution and the United States government are built on capitalism, that they cannot overthrow capitalism until they overthrow these things. So it was crazy for me to watch the right just realize the other day with the DSA video that, they want to overthrow the government. Yes, they talk about this openly all the time. I have them on video from 3 years ago saying they're going to raise the red flag of communism above the White House when they take things over in their little coup. And I really do believe they're going to try to do that, Harrison. I believe we've got 10 to 15 years before the far left actually tries to overthrow the government. I do not believe the Civil War is going to be red versus blue, mostly because Republicans don't really do anything. They threaten to do things. They claim they're going to do things. They say, we have all the guns and they won't come into our town and all these things, but then they don't actually do anything. The real civil war in America is going to be radical revolutionary socialist versus the federal government. And I think when they go, they're going to win. And I think they're going to win rather easily because they've been preparing this for literally decades. And I don't think people understand how dire this problem is and how much we need to start fighting back and providing an actual opposition to the far left. Because right now, the reason they are winning is there is no opposition to what they're doing at all.
And it really, it wouldn't be that hard. Honestly, if Trump and Marco Rubio, if they believed what they say, I mean, they treat communism, in their words, they say, hey, this is an existential threat, this is really bad. Why aren't you treating it like that? If they were to treat it with the seriousness with which they talk about it, I don't think it'd be that hard. You find the people on the left who are doing the bad stuff, you bring them in, hey, you got to, give us some information or you're going down for this. You do some RICO cases. I mean, these people are criminals, a lot of them. And okay, sure, we can imprison the Antifa members who actively stage an ambush and fire guns at ICE. We did. We got, we convicted a couple of them when they were actively involved in a plot that actually tried to kill a bunch of ICE officers. It's like that is not enough. And we have not gone over the communist revolution. We've not gone over that cliff edge. There is still time. They're still in that organizational phase. But the seriousness isn't there to actually deal with this. And I don't know if it ever will be since they're making these inroads. And as you've laid out, I mean, how much money have they spent planting offices in every big city? I know you posted about it before, but I mean, it's millions of dollars. So we have to take this seriously, the seriousness with which they're taking it. And they fully intend to literally take over the government, abolish the Supreme Court, or pack the Supreme Court, abolish the Senate. Like they're doing things or promoting policies explicitly and really can only serve to impose unconstitutional things on us. Why do you think they want to pack the Supreme Court? So they can do unconstitutional things. This is extremely bad, like we've been saying. But how much money have they spent? I know you know the amounts.
Yeah, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants that came out of DSA National to go to these local DSA chapters, but they're also doing additional fundraising on top of that. And I think that, people really don't realize let's focus in on the DSA specifically and talk about where they're getting their money. Because again, it's not Soros, it's not NGOs, it's not Neville Roysingham and the CCP, it's not any of that. The DSA is funded by dues paying members that pay the national organization on average about $15 a month to have voting privileges in the organization. They also separately pay dues into their local DSA chapter, like $5 a month, $15 a month, something like that. So let's play a little game called Fun with Math, Harrison. The DSA National just passed 120,000 dues-paying members. And by the way, that's up from 100,000 dues-paying members in February. So they've grown an additional 20,000 dues-paying members since February of this year. If you do 120,000 times $15 a month times 12 months in a year, that equates out to $21 million in annual dues that they are getting just from $15 a month dues-paying members. That is where they are getting their money from. They are also doing additional fundraising and phone banking. The DSA started an initiative last year called Socialist Cash Beats Capitalist Trash, where they were calling DSA members all over the country and saying, hey, can you just throw in a couple extra bucks for us? The DSA later tonight is actually doing a whole live phone banking thing on a meeting they're having where they get people on a Zoom call, they have a politician come to speak, and then they say, okay, guys, we're all going to go do phone calls now. And they have a national system set up where they can get thousands and thousands of people on these meetings, and they just start making phone calls to other DSA members, asking them for money, and they're willing to give it because right now they are very energized. And that is just one group on the left. There are dozens and dozens of groups on the left that are quite frankly more leftist and more dangerous than the DSA that are doing mutual aid funding. We saw this again in Minneapolis, Minnesota. There are over 80,000 anti-ICE activists in Minneapolis, Minnesota alone that are all organized into these signal groups that are making small cash donations, that are making food for each other, that are paying each other's rent if the illegal immigrants don't want to leave their house and stuff like that. And so, I do really think the first step to fixing this problem is people have got to stop lying about how this is funded. I really think that people who are pushing these conspiracy theories about NGOs and Iran and Cuba and Neville Roysingham and the CCP, they are actually doing so much harm to our ability to fight the left because it leaves people on the right believing that all of these protesters don't really believe in anything, that they're all paid to be out there. They are not paid. They're really not. They're out there because this is what they believe. They're passionate about what they're doing. This is their life. This is their community. This is their social circle. These are their friends. They have built an entire, several years ago, the right was talking about building this parallel economy, right? The left has actually built the parallel economy that the right thought that they should build. They've actually done this. And this is how they are so powerful and why they are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and again, it makes it that much more difficult to stop. And the only place I disagree with you is that obviously I think there are these NGO networks that are also funding them, but I think you're exactly right not to focus on that because obviously $21 million a year that's just the dues paying members. That's not the additional funding that they can be fundraising on or. So it's like you already have this core people funding themselves, and then that's sort of supercharged with government money, because you've got the teachers union, who's half of them are DSA members. I mean, there's so much sort of incestuous, helping each other out in all of these different organizations. It is a true hydra. It's a gigantic monster. 100,000 to 120,000 in 4 months. That is a big jump. And I think that's evidence of why now is the time. Like, the longer you wait, the harder this gets. And what are your thoughts? Why did they grow this much? This has to be because they're winning elections, right? People may have scoffed at them before. Now they're winning elections, so they start to get more members, so they start to win more elections, so they gain more money, so they get more members. I mean, again, snowball rolling down the hill. Earlier you stop it, the easier it'll be. What is behind that massive rise? That is an extra 1/5 of the members in just 4 months. That is huge.
I think the election certainly has something to do with it. I also think that the far left is just really good at recruiting people. And I mean, like, I think a lot of people are still stuck in this idea of 2016, like the left can't meme and all that stuff. Right. And it was true. Back then they kind of sucked, but they don't suck anymore. And if you go on their social media, they are making very compelling videos in which people are having fun talking about their beliefs. They're engaging with each other. And I say this as someone who, like, I've gone undercover with them more than almost anyone that I know of in the country. When you are at their events, it is fun. When they think that you are part of them and you agree with them, they treat you very well. It is a very fun community. It is much more fun. Even like, I am not on the left in any way. I am more far right than MAGA people or Trump supporters. I am extremely far right. But when I go to a leftist event, I have a good time being there, as long as they don't discover who I am and try to, beat me up or anything. Right. But like, I think that people really do underestimate this. They think that, like, I think right wingers think that because they see clickbait content on the internet about the left being violent, that all leftist events are violent, and that's just not true. In fact, most of the time, leftist events are actually peaceful protests, and everyone is just having a good time hanging out. There's music, so there's games, there's stuff to do. They get to have intellectual conversations with each other about topics that they're excited about. And so I think that just the reality is the left has so much more energy than the right does right now. The right is caught in constant infighting and conflict. We have these MAGA people who are completely unhinged from reality. They're trying to excommunicate everyone else that actually supported Donald Trump before they did. And there's just no, like, who is the right recruiting right now? I mean, honestly, like, there's no events for people to go to. There's no outreach to voters that they could be serving by talking about affordability and actually taking on the real issues of Americans. There's no social events to go to. Trump isn't even doing rallies anymore, so they don't even have that. So the left has all the energy on their side, and the right just has nothing that can even compare to it.
I'm sorry, we just picked up Alan Dershowitz. Thank you very much. He just changed his registration from Democrat to Republican. But seriously, that's sort of emblematic, isn't it? Because there's two big topics that I think are driving this: Israel and capitalism, I guess, for lack of a better word. Now, I think we need to break from our traditional conception of capitalism in the Republican Party. I think we've been completely hoodwinked by the idea of communism versus capitalism, when in reality it should be communism versus America, Americanism. And part of the American government's traditional role is restricting the behavior of capitalistic endeavors, the trust busting, breaking up these big corporations that are taking advantage of the American people. That is a deeply American way to deal with this, because if you don't, you get communism. This false dichotomy of communism versus capitalism, or America versus Israel, or the Republicans versus, or Democrats versus Israel, or whatever it is. I guess let's stick with Israel first. How do you think that plays into it? Like, what impact do you think that had on the Mamdani race, and just how do you think that plays into the whole paradigm shift happening right now?
Oh, I think it is one of the central figures of our time, right? Is essential issues of our time. I mean, we're in this war with Iran because of Israel, because we are more beholden to a foreign power than we are to actual American citizens. And I think that a lot of people on both the left and the right are waking up to this issue. And I want to say specifically about the war in Iran, the only anti-war side right now is the left. There is no anti-war movement on the right. And so actually what I've been seeing, Harrison, is there is a growing, increasing movement to recruit veterans to the far left. There are multiple veteran groups on the left. About Face is one of them. Veterans Against Fascism is one of them. These are overtly socialist groups that are at very far left events recruiting, that are speaking to veterans who do not want to be involved in this war at all. And I think we just don't have anything to compare that with on the right, because you are not allowed to question question the war with Iran. You are not allowed to question Israel's role in that. The other thing I really want people to understand is, even though there might be people who have misgivings about the war and also just our relationship with Israel in general, people on the right have a very different issue with Israel than people on the left do. Same with capitalism. People on the right, and I don't think capitalism is a perfect system by any means, but you and I are going to have very different objections to capitalism than the left would. When the left says capitalism, they explicitly mean private property ownership. They want to abolish our ability to own homes, lands, apartments, private businesses, intellectual property. They even consider parental rights to be a form of capitalism, so they would abolish parental rights over your kids. I don't think that's the problem that you or I have with capitalism. We have issues with crony capitalism, corrupt capitalism, all that stuff. And I do think it's really important for people to understand that. Like, we might be using the same word, but we have different definitions for what is going on. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we're in a conundrum because, again, it's like the Republicans and the Trump administration seem beholden to doing the bidding of Israel over helping Americans, while you have these socialists and communists who are saying, we don't want to be in this war. We want to take all this money that we're spending in Iran and we want to use it to help Americans make housing more affordable, make food more affordable, make life more affordable, make life better. The Trump administration is simply not competing with that at all.
100% could not agree more. And it's weird because it's almost like the false dichotomy is being pushed by both these sides, right? You hear the Israeli talking heads go, hey, if you're against Israeli, domination, then you must be a communist. You're no better than AOC. And you've got the socialists saying the same thing. Hey, you're against Israel? Great. You're on our side. Come with us. It's like both these people are pushing this, what I consider to be a false dichotomy, because I think you have a better reason to stand up against Israel from the right, from a national. Anyway, we don't need to get into that exactly, but it plays into what is driving people over to the left, because they look to the right and they see the most evil things they've ever seen in their lives when it comes to Israel, and they see the sickening adherence to the leadership of Israel from the Republican Party. They couldn't design it better if they tried. I mean, honestly, it's like what's happening with the Republican Party. It's like it was designed by Democrats. It's like a bunch of Democrats got in with Trump and went, all right, let's totally destroy the Republican Party by tying it to the hip to Israel and nothing else. Not doing deportations, not doing anything for the American people, but surrendering everything to Israel. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, Karlyn. It seems like this is a big setup. I mean, it seems like this is happening on purpose. And I don't know if it is, but they couldn't have designed it better, could they?
It almost seems comically bad, the things that are coming out of the talking heads on the right, and it is infuriating every single day, where it is obvious they're not talking to real people in the real world. They are just issuing a statement on Twitter that is just fundamentally unhinged from what real people want. We want mass deportations. We want to see, I want to see ICE going into neighborhoods, loading illegals onto semi-trucks, driving them to the airport, loading them on a cargo plane, and flying them back to a third world country in Africa. And I quite frankly don't even care which one. Unload them from the plane and leave them there and don't let them come back. And it's just like, I don't think I'm alone in this assessment, Harrison. And I think that people would really like to see that. But what did the Trump administration do? They fired Greg Bovino, who was like the only good person that actually had a plan to deport 100 million people. And now they put Markwayne Mullins in charge of DHS, who apparently is taking orders from Susan Collins in Maine, who just thinks that it's a little bit too much to arrest illegals when you stop them at a traffic stop. And so it's like the fact that Greg Bovino is not in charge of DHS, right? He's not even in the government, but he should be running DHS and he should be running all of what we're doing. I mean, it's one of Trump's worst qualities is his hiring decisions. This was true in his first administration, and we are seeing it again play out in this administration. He hired almost universally the most awful people he could possibly bring in. He's listening to them for reasons beyond my understanding, and that is why we are not getting the mass deportations that we rightfully deserve by giving him another term in office.
100%. And I don't want Kristi Noem standing out yelling at the camera about how they're going to do all this stuff. I want a Merrick Garland type. I want somebody quiet and efficient who's just going to come out and do a little press conference where he goes, here's who we're arresting. We're doing this perfectly in line with the Constitution. Good night, everybody. And then I just want to round them up. And it's like we cannot get that done. It's so utterly infuriating. So how do we get this done? I mean, strategically, strategizing here. You got something like New York City, DSA mayor. I mean, that started the ball rolling. Now you're in this feedback loop where they're going to start taking buildings from people. They're going to start, forcing. it's not going to be good. Do we abandon New York? Do we just go, all right, they lost, let's consolidate, in red states and try to just hold the line? Do we try to retake territory there? Is that even too ambitious? How do we survive the first assault? Like, what is the strategy moving forward here for our, listeners and viewers out there? I don't want to black pill them. The DSA is obviously strong and growing stronger. We have to recognize that if we want to fight it. So how do we fight it? That's the question.
So for me, obviously, I'm not in any position of decision-making power, sadly. So I can't say what the Republican Party should do, and they probably wouldn't listen to me anyway. But I think for me, what I'm trying to do, Harrison, is I'm trying to get out there and educate as many people as I can about how the left is actually organizing, what their language means, what their terminology means, how they think about raising money, how they think about activism in the real world. Because I really think that the biggest part of the problem that we face is that right-wing audiences have been lied to by their own media for years and years and years. And because of that, everyone is fundamentally unhinged from reality about what the left is doing in the real world. And quite frankly, I don't care what the left was doing 50 years ago or 20 years ago. I care what they are doing and how they are organizing today. And so I'm trying to just educate as many people as I can to try to understand the language, understand the organizing structure, because I think that you cannot adequately fight back against an enemy that you do not understand. And I think, again, until the right wants to hinge into reality on how the left is raising money, how they are actually organized, that it is horizontal, it is non-hierarchical, it is decentralized, how they are actually working with each other all over the country, what propaganda they're putting out, what talking points they're issuing on any given day, how they are actually coordinating all these efforts. Until we understand the issue that we are dealing with, we cannot actually put tactics in place to defeat them. I also think I hate when I see Republicans just completely ceding the major cities. Like, what are you doing? In New York City, they didn't even attempt to fight back against Zohran Mamdani. There was no real effort made in New York City at all. And that wasn't just in that mayoral's race. They gave up on New York City a long time ago. And I think if they just started speaking to the issues that real Americans want to hear, I don't think that they would have that Americans would readily accept communism as an alternative. But right now, they are literally being given nothing from the Republican Party, and they're being told by the far left, we will fix all your real world problems. So, like, what do you want them to do? So I think this is about really just going back to basics, doing the groundwork. Literally, if Republicans just took what the DSA is doing and copied it for the Republican Party, it would be 1,000 times more effective than what the Republicans are currently doing.
Well, we're currently doing, I don't even want to get into what we're currently doing. It's like, because, it's just, it's the Trump administration, but it's also, we can't help but tearing ourselves down. I guess here in the last 2 minutes, how do we stop killing each other, Karlyn? Because we got this such a powerful enemy on the left, and yet all of our energy is spent towards fighting Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens, it's like, how do we get over that first?
Hey, listen, Harrison, I've been talking about this lately, but at the last 3 far left events I've gone to, I'm actually in more danger of being attacked by a MAGA person than I am by leftists. And that's true. I get attacked far more by the right than I do by the left. I just had a right-wing person dox my house literally the other day live on my stream, and then threatened to come to my house and show up with a gun. Okay, so it's like it is absolute insanity what is going on the right now. And I think we have to focus our attention on who the real enemy is. And listen, from my perspective, obviously I don't support Israel in any way, but will I work with Zionists if they want to work with me on solving the problem of the far left? Yes, you are allowed to support Israel. This is America. We are allowed to have differences of opinions, but if we can't put our differences of opinions aside and work on the issues that we have in common, then all is truly lost. And if the right is going to continue to do these purity tests of you have to support Israel in order for us to talk to you about the left, then nothing is going to get accomplished. I mean, this is something I've had to deal with for years and years and years, is the purity tests that go on the right. And I know you've had to do it too. Nick Fuentes has had to do it too. And you can see where the energy is right now. The energy on the right is not behind the Republican establishment. It is not behind Trump. It is behind people like Nick, and who are speaking to the issues that people care about. And so why are we excommunicating people and completely gatekeeping them from being part of the discussion? Why can't we just focus on what we have in common and then bicker about the rest later?
You're so right. You're just hitting the nail on the head. It should be the other way around. It should be, hey, you support Israel? Well, guess what? We got to defeat the left, because if the left gets into power, guess what's the first on the chopping block? So if Israel is your big topic, put it to the side for a second and deal with the actual problem that is really the biggest threat to Israel. Like, if that's your angle, okay, then you need to get on board and help us defeat the left and not have these purity spirals over Israel. You're exactly right, man. Just incredible stuff. As always, Dr. Karlyn B on X. That's DrKarlyn B on X. And what's your website? I want to get it exactly right. There it is. DecodeTheLeft.com. Decode the Left. You can follow at Decode the Left on X, at Queer Marxism, at Red Menace Supply. Incredible work. Keep it up. And we'll talk to you again soon, Karlyn. All right, folks. We'll be right back with the third hour, and Lionel Nation joins us on the other side. Stay with us, folks.
Do you want to try some?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we'll send you some methylene blue, and if you guys want to get it too, you can get it from thealexjonesstore.com. I invented 2 proprietary products. Gavin, I'm a business owner, supplement formulator, Power Plant and Methyl Drive. You guys got to get them right now. Magnesium, CoQ10, PQQ, Rhodolia rosea, golden root. It's got the cordyceps, the zinc, the selenium. It's got the boron as well. Raise your free testosterone, raise your ability to get through hard days and hard tasks, and ultimately raise the potential of the methylene blue that you're probably already taking if you're watching this network. We have that available for you. It's a really good deal, really good price. People just kind of across the internet have told me they've started taking it and they've been able to get to the gym again. They've been able to get through hard days at work again. Specifically, that Power Plant formula, if you're looking for something like Super Male Vitality from back in the day, I basically invented a better version of that. That's called Power Plant. It's available solo or also in the Power Drive bundle at thealexjonesstore.com. Look up what proper magnesium does for your body. Look up what proper methylated vitamin B12 does for your body. All of that and more is in Power Plant and Methyl Drive, and you can get them all 3 together on the Power Drive bundle, along with the other phenomenal products. We have the turmeric, we've got the MK Ultra, which is a phenomenal multivitamin, also nootropic as well. Ultimate Burn. If you're trying to lose a little bit of weight, here's the thing. I've been doing a good job. I'm almost down to like 205 now. If you want to join me on a weight loss journey, you can get yourself some Ultimate Burn. And all the other products we have, like Methylene Red specifically, are also great for that. Methylene Red also has that CoQ10. Get the turmeric, get the blue, get the gummies, get the colostrum. My grandma is not capping on jaw for real. It really helped her with her hair if you want it. We've got the T3 trifecta iodine, the absolute staple of the old network. We've got the Ultimate Sea Moss, Ultimate Turmeric, the bovine beef tallow. It's got the methylene blue inside the tallow. Incredible antioxidant, methylene blue. I already went over it, tried to with Gavin a little bit. We've got the zeolite, incredible for heavy metal support, dechelation, stuff like that. The Shilajit complex, we've even got smelling salts. Ultimate Life Force, which is absolutely incredible. It's got the nattokinase in there. It's got things theoretically to attenuate certain anecdotal things with the spike protein. Not making a health claim there. Talk to your doctor. It's just a top-rated formula for a reason. The Ultimate CMOS gummies in another form. The creatine, the Ultimate Power. We've got tons of sales on the different forms and flavors of the Ultimate Power pre-workout. We've got the NAD. We've got the Methyl Drive. We've got the MK Ultra. We've got Optimal Human. I got drink mixes for you. I got powders. I got energy gum. This is what you need. We have an electrolyte powder. It is so important in the summer months to get proper electrolyte support. And if you look at a lot of these blends on the grocery store shelf, they are pure garbage. Get yourself some Optimal Human, get yourself some beef tallow, get yourself some Atomic Defense. All of that and more is available at thealexjonesstore.com. I did not even mention the water filtration, shower filtration that we have, the Patriot apparel that we have, the collectible coins, memorabilia that we have. Literally everything that you could ever want theoretically or practically to support this operation, you can get at thealexjonesstore.com. This is what makes us different. Other people do a show so they can sell a product. We sell the best products in the world so that we can do the best show in the world. That's what makes this operation completely different, completely viewer, listener, supported, funded, owned by you at home when you choose to make the decision to support us and get the phenomenal products at thealexjonesstore.com. I'm telling you again, the Power Drive bundle, Methyl Drive, Power Plant, Methylene Blue, that is like the trifecta